Well, today we have Thomas Silverboerg, a tenor, international tenor, American, now living in Germany and teaching voice there as he's retired from his operatic career. But Thomas has sung some leading roles around the world in operas like Pagliacci, Zauberflöte, L'Amico Fritz, Madame Butterfly, Tosca, Lucia, Macbeth, I love that one. La Forza del Destino, Turandot, etc., etc., etc. Super excited to hear what Thomas has to say and his insights to vocal technique. Right now, he's always posting on Facebook and other social media places some bits of information that he has learned over the years about vocal technique. So I'm looking forward to talking to him about that today and hearing his beautiful tenor voice as well, singing some different arias that I'm sure you'll recognize. So without any further ado, ladies and gentlemen, let's bring in Thomas Silverberg.
Daniel, how are you? We finally get to speak, my friend.
I'm a
You know,
lot better now that I get to meet you in person.
okay. Can you see me all right? I've got a cheap camera here and lighting problems, but as
It's
long as it's
perfect.
good. Yeah, I'm
No
sorry.
problem.
I had a terrible time trying to find where the problem was, why I couldn't hear you. But here we are. You
Welcome.
know. Well, listen, I'm first of all, two things. I am camera shy. I am a camera shy person. Um, I always have been. And I was just telling my wife that the last time I did an interview or anything, I think it was in 1985 on a local station I think in New Hampshire, and when I was doing touring opera, and I remembered I never do this, you know. But
Mm.
but at the very beginning, I wanted to tell you I am really honored to take part in this. You know, I know
Oh,
I know a number of the colleagues that you've interviewed quite well, and these are great people. I think of Ben Hepner or to John Keyes. Uh, I sang Parsifal with John many times. He was magnificent. I rec
wow.
I recorded Lohengrin with Ben. Did it with him several times on the stage, and there was a very funny mishap. Maybe we'll get uh, once and what I recorded Meistersinger with Ben too. I was a Lehrbuch, you know,
Wow. Okay.
uh, and no, I know all of these guys, but I mean, when I look at the little tiny career doing a little of this, a little of that, a little of that, that I kind of made a goulash out of. I feel like a midget compared to these guys.
Hey,
I really.
welcome to the club. So do I.
Uh, oh, Daniel, I listened to your stuff. You were magnificent.
Oh,
A,
thank you.
a really warm but metallic lyric tenor that had a very easy top with a lot of penetrating. I like that kind of a compact sound that really will just shoot right out over an orchestra. This
Thank
is
you.
my kind of tenor. I said,
Ah,
damn, listen to this guy, you know, and uh,
thank you.
um, and you're still performing some yourself, aren't you?
Yeah, I do. I do. Now that I'm retired from the opera scene, I do
Right.
like restaurant gigs just because I don't want the voice to disappear on me. So,
Of course, when you get older, I've discovered it myself now that I'm starting to teach again. When you get older, you rust really quickly if you don't sing. You know,
absolutely.
it's not like you're 35 and you go, oh, I haven't sung for a week, and you vocalize for 15 minutes and the voice is back. You know,
Right.
now I do it at my age, and the first couple of days, I sound like a diesel truck trying to start at 40 below in Alaska. It's sitting there going, I'm not sure here, you know.
So
So, what are we
I
going to
talked
talk about today?
I talked to what we're doing right now. I talked to Ben Hepner a little bit about what you're describing. So, what do
Yeah.
you think happens as you get older that
Well,
makes that happen? What's
first
what?
of all, I'd say I'd say it's a question of muscle mass and tonicity that naturally lessens with age. And if you're not in training, I mean, I look at singing as a whole body experience, you
Yes,
know. And when you're not in training and keeping things supple and working together, you're getting degeneration. As you get older, you get this anyway. And
yes.
then I remember discussing this years ago with Nikolai Geda, that I got a cat running by here, and is my office cat. She lives here in the office, and sometimes she may come and sit right here, and you won't see me anymore. But that the process of ossification, where all of the cartilage in the throat area slowly turns to bone. And
Mm.
I remember Kenneth telling me when I was working with him, you know, I have terrible trouble singing F sharp anymore because I'm not on the top and I'm not underneath. I'm right on the edge of the passaggio, and I'm not getting that little bit of tilt. I've got an either or situation here. So every time I have to sing in F sharp, he was already at least 75, if not a little older at that point. And
Okay.
and the voice had dried out a little bit, but he could still sing magnificently. He says, I just don't like to sing in F sharp anymore. He could still sing the high D.
You're talking about Gedda now.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yes.
I actually had the honor when I was first a student in Palm Springs and I won the
Uh,
competition there is they put me in a concert with Nikolai Gedda.
no
And
kidding.
I got to
No.
sing on the same
Yeah.
stage with that
Yeah.
guy.
Uh, I worked with him some. I never did any concerts with him. It was during the time that he was singing The Land of Smiles at the Volksoper in Vienna. And
Okay.
so, and I was living in Salzburg at the time. And I just get on the train, go to Vienna and take a lesson, you know.
Wow. What was that like?
Oh, well, actually, um, his his best thing, I wouldn't say that his communication as a teacher technically was the greatest,
Hmm.
but very often I would say to him, "Show me," and he would show me. I said, "Now tell me, Nikki, what you feel." And
Excellent.
this is how I learned to sing the pianissimo top
Tell
from
me
him.
about that.
Well,
Yeah.
there's two ways to do it. There's the German Kopfstimme and there's the Italian voce finta.
Hmm.
The Kopfstimme is pretty much falsetto. Well, this is a real problem for me because
Hmm.
I don't own one, which is
Wow.
which is not unusual for a lighter tenor. You know, I don't have a falsetto. That means if I sing piano on the top, the actual chords, the edges have to be vibrating. I can't make the false chords vibrate. I can't
Got
do
it.
this. And I remember Björling said the same thing, you know. And so I asked him, I said, show me and tell me what you feel. And he would say he had a magnificent piano, clear, crystalline top. And he said, I feel like somebody's pushing up my back molars with their thumbs. So he was thinking of a big opening in the back and going
Okay.
straight up with it. And I went,
Amazing.
oh. And then I said, like this. And I did it just like that. And he had a lot of tips like that. And uh, this is how I learned from him. This is just my personal experience. I never saw him work with other people. But I asked him what he did and what he felt because his whole way of singing was not in the box. You know that.
Yes.
Yeah. There were certain things that he did. I think they were intrinsic to his personality and his voice
Yeah.
that
And
maybe didn't.
we're natural, I think, for him.
Well, it comes to mind the way he sang the high C in Faust or in Vespri. And I watched him when he sang Hoffmann in Hartford when I was a resident artist there. And he would go up to the top with such an abandon, and I found it dangerously open, but very exciting,
Mm.
but
Hmm.
very exciting, And also his voice, it went up like a V. The middle of the voice was not really big, but it just went up, and the top, the A naturals, the B flats, and the Bs and the Cs, they could be enormous. You
Yes.
know,
I
it
love that.
wasn't it wasn't a really balanced voice, which actually I think for him may have been an advantage because he did so much art song and so much recital work where you
Hmm.
don't have to bellow, you know.
Mm.
And so I mean, working with him, I think I took 6 or 7 lessons with him over a period of a year and a half. I would go to him, and I learned a lot from him. And of course, over the years singing with people, I can remember in the middle of a Lohengrin in Munich, um, I went downstairs to Ben's dressing room and he was down there having a cigar. And we sat there for the entire intermission talking about singing and technique. And Ben was always very receptive. He always wanted to talk, chat, have a cup of coffee. You
Mm-hmm.
know, a lot of people, I was never that way because I was always a terrified performer. I would absolutely sequester myself in the dressing room. And I know this is probably not the best thing to say, but then I'd open up the window and have a cigarette, a nervous cigarette, and blow the smoke out the window. you
Hey,
know,
I'm
you know,
amazed at guys that could do that.
well,
James Morris smoked a lot backstage too.
well, Placido used to too. He used to
I
bum them
didn't
for
know that.
yes.
Wow.
He used to bum cigarettes for me, and I finally told him after a while. I said, Placido, you're making 10 times as much as I am. Can't you buy your own? He goes, I don't smoke.
Wow. So
I mean,
to get to talk to you about things like chest voice and head voice, was he ever in that
not
linear
really,
equation?
not really. I I think that a lot of the adjustments that he made were unconscious. I think he was much
Yeah.
more concentrated in making sure that he didn't bottle the air and that he kept very high in the back.
Mm-hmm.
Kept,
Mm-hmm.
uh, I say, keep the pillars long, the fauces at the side in the back of the throat. Because
Mm-hmm.
I myself noticed as I got older, or if I tried to sing things that were outside of my repertory and pump it up, sometimes I would just compress everything down.
Mm.
And you'd hear a lot of metal, but that sound was this big. To me,
Mm-hmm.
it sounded enormous. To me, it sounded like Delmonico, but that was not traveling at
Got it.
all. It was
Mm-hmm.
crushed in the back. And I'm not going to mention any names, but I know there were several tenors I knew who had huge careers who did just that. And one of
Mm.
them, over a period of 25 years, he sang his voice small. By the
Mm-hmm.
time he was done, the voice was half the size when he started.
Mm-hmm.
And the problem is, as a singer, what we hear is not what they hear.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
I
So
do.
I'm going to shut up and you can ask me a couple of questions.
I like the role that you're on. Yeah.
Yeah,
Excellent.
I mean,
So
see,
you feel that you don't have a falsetto. Is that
no, I don't have a usable falsetto, which is kind of funny because my older brother, he sang as a tenor for a while. It was a voice even higher than mine. I don't think he had to flip over until A flat. That's how high it was. And he could go into a falsetto. And sometimes he sang things that were actually, he sang some oratorio. It was really only on the side, but he sang as an alto. He did the Russell Oberlin. I
wow?
couldn't do that. I couldn't do that, you know. But but everybody's different. Yeah, I'm
Yes.
sure. I'm sure you also have singers in your family. Out of
Well,
my
my
four brothers,
yeah,
three.
my older brother was a natural tenor and was way more gifted than I was, and he could go all the way up to high C without any sort of passaggio in the voice. He just
I
had
hate.
that connect. I hate
I
him.
hate those guys. I hate those guys. I mean, um, you mentioned a little bit about the tribulations that you went through having to rebuild your voice.
Yes.
Well, the top did not come naturally for me. And that's why
Yeah.
I went to people like Gedda. This is why I spoke a few times to Corelli. I spoke to Krauss. I spoke to Gianni Raimondi. I really, I
Loved
don't,
his top.
I
Johnny
don't know.
Raimondi.
He was a great singer. He had as sweet a voice as Di Stefano and really knew how to use it.
Mm.
A very similar timbre for me. And um, you know, uh, I'd ask these guys. I mean, like I said, I sat in the dressing room with Ben Hebner, and we talked about singing and how unusual his voice was for the kind of repertory he sings. Because I said, Ben, your passaggi are the same as mine.
Hmm.
They're the same as mine. and I remember it was about the time he was looking at it. I said, "Have you ever considered singing some of the dramatic French literature that lies higher?" I said, "You can
Mm,
sing this stuff. You and not everybody, since Ponce,
mm-hmm,
who nobody knows. You know Tony Ponce.
mm-hmm,
Nobody
mm-hmm,
knows him." I said, "There isn't anybody who can really sing that literature, but I bet you can, Ben."
mm-hmm.
And he made a few recordings and stuff, and it worked. I think it worked out very well for him.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, other things that made him sing the schwere Heldentenorfach. I always thought that his voice lay too high for that, and that he wasn't
Mm,
showing himself to best advantage.
mm-hmm.
But we don't need to talk about every one of us has had, for various reasons, to sing some things that we might not have chosen.
I did
You know,
that.
I did
Yeah.
that too. But I'll tell you one thing. Every time I tried to sing something that wasn't right for me, my voice turned around and bit me for it.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
every time. And, in the German theater where I made my living for a long time, they have the Fach system, the vocal category system. And
Yes.
the Italians, they have theirs. The
Yes.
problem is, I don't fit into the German system. They never knew what to
Mm,
do.
mm.
You know, it's like I'm in between something. The Italians would have called me when I was singing actively, a tenore di grazia,
Okay.
you know, which
Yeah.
means Donizetti, Mozart, but legitimate music. Can I sing some Bohème in concert? Sure, I even sang the Tosca arias in concert. Can I sing Cavaradossi? No,
And why do you
no.
think that is?
It's just a lighter instrument.
Got
It's a
it.
lighter, it's a lighter frame. But for the kind of lighter instrument I have, and I'm not making comparisons, um, I think I was kind of in a category like Francisco Araiz,
Mm.
lighter instrument, but the basic color was a little darker. And then people would say, "Oh, you can sing this, you can sing that."
Right.
You know what I
Right.
mean? Because they're hearing a little bit of a color. I mean,
Something.
I mean,
Hmm.
I never liked the light tenor who walked out in Barbiere and started to sing, Ecco ridente in te. I'm sitting there
Yeah.
going, did you get kicked by a mule, son? And
Yeah. No,
uh,
thank you. Right.
I never
So
understood.
I
I never,
noticed on the internet there was one place that referred to you as a Helden Leggero.
oh, that was a gag. A good friend of mine who is now no longer with us, he had a tenor website, Francois Nouvillon.
Okay.
And I don't know if you've ever seen it. There's an incredible compilation of recordings of every tenor who ever opened his mouth.
Wow. Okay.
It really, and I contributed very heavily to it. The great late baritone Joseph Shore. I don't know if you ever heard of
Yes.
Joe, who was a very
Yes.
good friend of mine. He
Wow. Okay.
we sang together a lot, and
Yeah.
he contributed to it, and uh, that came from the website where we put up a little gag page about me and making it a little bit of fun. And the other parts of the page are no longer available. But there
Available.
were a
Okay.
couple of gag sites for gag tenors who don't exist, and they were all me at various stages of my career. And
That's
there was this
great.
one when I was singing the Sonambula duet, and all of the opera groupies were going, "Who is this great Leggero coloratura?" I was like 22 years old, and they were trying to figure out who this guy was. Well, it was me. The page was fake. It was a little inside joke between me and the guy who ran the site, you know. And there were several of those that were there. And now the fellow who's taken over the website, he took those away. He owns a small record company where he uh, reproduces old recordings that are legally
Mm.
reproduced and stuff. He said, "We got to clean this up. I can't leave this here because there's this one picture that it was a picture of me in a costume that was a canary yellow tuxedo and a blonde wig." And I looked at it. I said, "I look just like the German pop singer Heino." So I got some sunglasses, took a few photos, and for the gag, we put this picture of me, and I look just like the German pop singer. I know, yeah, and you know how crazy singers are and their jokes.
I
You
love
know,
that. I
uh,
love that. Yes.
I almost got in trouble a few times where I worked because I would play little practical jokes on people on the stage. You
Ah,
know,
okay.
just
Yes.
little ones, just little ones. You know. Um,
So growing up, who was did you have like an inspiration that made you want to
well,
be an opera singer?
um, I had the great fortune to grow up in Concord, Massachusetts,
Hmm.
and they had really at that time a great educational program and a great music educational program. I talk to people that I know from back then right now, and I am astounded when I see how many artists, painters, artisans, people I know all come from there. Uh,
Amazing.
an amazing interest in the arts and crafts. There's one fellow who I went to high school with. He's a guest all the time on This Old House, and he rebuilds,
Wow. Okay.
helps rebuild uh, historical buildings and stuff.
Hmm.
And another guy, they make antique zithers and dulcimers. And where I come from, there's all of these people.
Wow.
Um, I and they had a great program there. I started singing musicals there.
Wow.
When I was a freshman in high school, I sang Charlie and Brigadoon.
Ha ha
Already
ha.
at the tender age
Wow.
of maybe 15, when I wasn't on the golf course.
Oh, there
You
you
know.
go. So for you, it was more the community than a particular singer that pushed you into the singing thing?
Um, my grandmother, my Irish grandmother, she gave me, I must have been 12 years old. Remember those old Scala LPs, those really cheap budget ones with the pink cover?
Yes. Yes.
Gave me one of those LPs of John McCormick singing popular songs.
Wow.
And I listened to it. I went, this fellow is amazing. When he started going, I hear you calling me with that charming
Yes.
lilt. And and I listened to him. And I thought, this is amazing what this guy can do because he was so musical.
Yes.
I can remember when I was teaching at a small conservatory many years ago in Hartford, Connecticut. I went down into the cellar one day and I found boxes full of the sheet music for all of these old tunes. All the stuff had been out of print. And I would occasionally, I would do
Wow.
country club. I do country club gigs and things, or sing for the ladies club. You know how it is when you're a young singer. You take this, you take that. You
Sure.
know, I had my church job. Sometimes I sang in the temple. This was normal for us.
Yes.
And, uh, and so I found the stuff. I took it home, sat down at the piano, and I listened. I said, "Oh, McCormick sang this. I remember that." And I was playing it and singing it, and I go, "This is a piece of garbage." I go, "This guy was so good. He could make anything sound fine."
Sound good. Yeah.
If the piece had any substance or not. I went, "This is more than good. He can
Hmm.
take any bad piece of music and make it sound like a masterpiece." And
Yeah.
that's why I started to get my inspiration. And then the great Caruso with Mario Lanza came on TV. Back in those
I
days,
I wrote about him a lot in my book
uh, uh,
about my life
Joey,
story because that was
uh,
the voice that made me decide to be an opera singer when I was
right,
15 or 16.
right. My dear friend Michael Vaccaro, who has the touring opera here in Germany, is well connected to the family. Yeah, and his son actually, I believe, sang a concert for him a few years back.
Wow.
And Michael, of course, I told you he himself was a great lyric tenor. He was a
Mm.
very, very good singer. He was a student of Albanese, but
Oh, really?
and what I find fascinating is I haven't looked at all of these broadcasts that you've been doing, but there's such a wealth of information in these from different singers that the young generation really should be seeing, because it's coming. It's coming from different people with different experiences from
Yes.
all different angles. You know what I
Yes.
mean? And so I mean, it's basically it's like going to the candy store. Say, oh, I can take this idea. Well, that's a good
Hmm.
idea. Yeah, I should do that. And you go, oh, I wouldn't do that. But you know,
Yes.
there's so many different experiences and so many people who did so many things on so many levels. I I really think that this podcast is uh, invaluable for a young
Thank
singer,
you. Thank you.
particularly in these times are tough right now. We're living in very trying times, and
Hmm.
I see I've seen a few of my colleagues who were middle in the middle of good careers who are practically reinventing themselves right now to try to keep afloat, and it doesn't
Mm,
have anything to do with them. These people are good, you know.
yeah.
I
It's
remember, you
rough world out there for singers.
know,
That's for sure. And COVID screwed everything up too.
oh,
So,
that's well, that I was approaching the end anyway when that hit, but I wasn't done yet. I was doing maybe less than I'd been doing before, but when that hit, it was like bye, all the old guys, bye,
mm.
and it's just it was a difficult time, you
And
know.
you live in Germany now, right?
I live in Germany right now. That's
And
right.
you're teaching there online. Why don't you tell us a little bit
I
about that whole
well,
thing?
I've just started building that up. I've got a couple of people. A lot of this stuff is done through word of mouth, and
Yes.
teaching online in some ways, it's not optimal. It's not optimal.
Hmm.
You're not getting the hands on, and uh, often you've got different. You've got the lag sometimes,
Hmm.
um, and people have different equipment and things. What I think I'm hearing is not what I'm really hearing. You know what I mean? And
Mm.
it is a challenge, but in other ways, it can be very convenient for people. And
Exactly.
this is something I'm looking to expand. I have my YouTube channel. I have the things up on SoundCloud that prove that I was once able to sing a little bit. And
Speaking of that, let's play a little bit of you for the audience, so
all right,
they can hear this incredible voice of yours. I think let's start with, if you don't mind, Che la mi creda from Girl of the
okay,
Golden West.
all right.
Bravo, bravo. That
That
does
guy's
not
not too bad. He's not too bad.
that does not sound like a leggero tenor.
Well, there's a funny story with that. That was some years ago. It was outside in I don't
Mm,
know. Have you ever been to Munich?
I have.
Okay, you know where the Staatsoper is, the State Opera,
Yes.
and the residence out back.
Mm.
Well, huge enclosed yard there. It's immense. And
Haven't seen that.
this was outdoors in the enclosed yard of the residence in back of the State Opera, with the youth orchestra in Munich. And the thing is,
Mm.
this was a little series where I was actually the second cast for it. There were two casts, and the first two concerts, John Kais sang them.
Oh my God.
Right, John. And the thing is, for the kids, the repertory was set. That means, Tom, you sing Van Chula. So I'm not Dick Johnson. Oh, by the way, you've got to sing the end of the in Samson with the mezzo. You've got to sing Dalila, Dalila. I
Wow.
said, well, I'm going to have to darken it up and get soupy so somebody can think. And interestingly enough, when I did this concert, a colleague of mine who sang in the chorus of the State Opera came and sat in about the fifth row and recorded the entire concert, which was really nice of her on
Oh, great.
Walkman. I didn't even know that she was there. And then she presented me with this recording of the entire concert. And and I was surprised that I was so loud outside without a microphone. There was no mic. And
Wow.
she was at least 25 feet away from me, and I figured, well, it's good that I have a recording of this because I never sang this before, and I don't think I'm likely to sing this again. you know, uh,
Amazing.
it was like with the Verdi Requiem. I sang it
Uh-huh.
once and I learned it in 2 days.
Oh my
One
God.
time. Yeah, one time. Well, I always loved the piece, so I kind of knew it, and I'd sung the choruses before.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
I have a story about that, but I can't tell you online for everybody to hear. And that's the problem. You've been in the business for a long time. We all have stories, but we can't talk about them here. you
You'd
know,
be surprised what some of the people say online on this podcast, but it's
I am trying.
yeah.
I'm trying to be on my best behavior because I quite often have foot and mouth disease, and
And
it,
well,
it in my old.
if you feel like saying shit or something, you go right ahead.
Well, it's all right. I mean, I know what that is. I can say that in 20 languages,
Okay.
uh, but
So I have a technical question for you. When you were singing, "Que la mi creda libero no na," so when you went to those Fs, did you think of that as open or closed? Did you think in those terms?
are those Fs or those G flats? They're G flats,
Yeah,
aren't
I
they?
think you're right. G flats. Yes.
Well, because I was looking for a darker sound and keeping open in the back, I covered that.
Okay.
I covered it. I think it's a G flat. I covered it
I think you're
by
right.
modifying the vowel. By modifying the vowel. I don't have to or didn't have to, but if I had sung it the way I usually sing it, it would have popped right out of the phrase. You know what I
Mm.
I don't think I would have started to cackle like a chicken, but it wouldn't have it would have had a different color than what I was trying to do, which was trying to play the cello in the middle and act like I should really be singing lyrical spinto repertory for 2 minutes. You know what I mean? It's amazing
Mm.
what you can get away with if you've only got to do it for a minute or two. You know what I mean? And
Oh, so you referred to that as covered.
yeah,
Can I ask you another question? Do you ever think of terms open or closed?
yeah, I do.
Okay.
Um, I think I think that every tone is closed or should be closed. It's got to be within a framework. I think that open will destroy the voice and the sound. Uh,
Mm.
um, I remember in a master class when I was starting as a singer, I sang a lot of comprimari around New England.
Hmm.
I did a lot in Hartford for years at the Connecticut Opera, but I
Hmm.
also worked for Giuseppe Campura in Bridgeport, uh,
Wow. Okay.
in the Connecticut Grand when he was running that. I even got the opportunity to do the Saint of Bleecker Street with Minotti doing the stage direction there.
Wow. That must have been
Yeah,
interesting.
it was very interesting, and it was very uh, and he, of course, was very good friends with Giuseppe Di Stefano.
Mm.
And Di Stefano came to give a concert, but he gave a master class. But all of the students pretty much were picked from all the comprimari who sing in the house. It was all
Hmm.
picked, and I was one of them. And I was doing the Lamento di Federico uh, from La
Oh,
Louisiana, and I
love
started
that
singing.
aria.
I got to the end where it goes, Perché Dio tanto. And so I sang it, and I covered and protected the A. And people looks at me, goes, no, 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 aperto, aperto. I said, he wants me to sing an A natural open. So okay. So I went back and I sang, and I lifted it as hard as I could, but it was still protected. He goes, no, no, aperto, aperto. So I went, okay.
Wow.
So I went, wide open. He goes, see, va bene. I said, they go, I'll lose my voice when I'm 35 if I do this. No,
So,
but
folks, you're talking about Di Stefano, right? Telling you that, and of
yeah,
course, he was famous for singing his high notes open,
yes,
and probably eventually that's what led to his demise. But
I think that that certainly was uh, a
but
large part of it.
when he was young, he had a mastery of that was untouchable,
Oh, you think
and
of the Faust?
diminuendos were unbelievable up there.
You think of the Faust from the Met in 1949, for instance.
Yes,
The recordings he made when he was in the internment camp in Italy,
yes,
in Switzerland
yeah,
during the
yeah, yeah.
Second World War, as a very young man. They're magnificent.
Vola, 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 all of that
Yes, I
stuff.
mean, and as soon as he sang that stuff, a lot of the affected things that made him hold his voice, they went away.
Yeah.
And I remember that with the well-known Italian tenor Gianni Poggi. It was the same thing with that with him. When he
Hmm.
sang the popular stuff, he sounded great. And when he would sing, although this man could sing anything, he could get through anything. When he would sing opera, he always sounded to me like he had a stuffy nose. You know,
Mm.
but as soon as he got to the popular stuff, whatever he was holding on to, he just let go, and it was really good.
Free.
He was you know, I think
Why do you,
everybody.
why do you think that is? Do you think it was tessitura or was it
No, I
just
think he was. Um, he was not a man of a great education, and was very simple. And I think that maybe he got the idea that he had to sound aristocratic, and when he sang opera, instead of just singing it. You know what I mean?
speaking of that, years ago, my vocal coach, his name was George Trevillo,
Uh,
who played for Bjorling quite a bit on tour for many
uh,
years. And he was hearing me trying to sing Recondita Armonia. And he's like, no, 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 no. And he knew that I was a composer. And he said, let me hear one of your songs that you sing.
mhm.
And so I sang him an original song. And he said, you have to sing that opera like this. You're giving opera too much respect.
Yeah, but I mean, recondita armonia. There's a trick to that. It has everything to do with the way that you handle the F's before the end. You got to hang those things like from the ceiling.
Yes.
No, no, Mala, no, 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 no. Or you can kiss that B flat goodbye. You know, it's
There you go.
very, it's very dangerous. Like I said, I never sang Cavaradossi, but I sang that in concert a few times.
Hmm.
You know, like I said, if it's short, you know, you can dabble outside of your repertoire a little bit,
Hmm.
particularly as you get older.
Hmm.
You know, when I listen to recordings of me singing at the age of 16, 17, 18, I just laugh.
Mm.
Even when I was singing, or I would sing things like Arturo and Lucia,
Hmm.
Borsa, Remendado, and they'd let me sing it with my voice. And if Campera wanted something, he'd go, where is my tenorino? Tommy, where's my tenorino? Where is my tenorino? But he didn't mean it badly
I
because that's what
understand.
I was back then.
Hmm.
That's what I was. I was his tenorino, you know. And well,
Wow. So, what do
uh,
you think of the more recent developments with people who are able to sing extremely high tenor rep, but also sing baritone rep.
You're talking about Michael Spiers.
I am.
Um, there are singers, I think, who fit outside of the mold. They do, or have extraordinary extension. I mean, for a lighter tenor,
Uh-huh.
uh, I had a good extension to the bottom when I was still at Oberlin, when I was 22. I sang Peleas, and all I had to do to sing Peleas is stop vocalizing for 2 months, you know,
Wow.
and let the voice just go
The
down a little
center
bit.
of gravity went a little lower.
Center of
Okay.
gravity went a little lower. It was a lyric Peleas, but you could hear me sing the low C's. You could hear them. They were
Wow.
they were phonating,
Hmm.
and um, so I mean, somebody like Spires, I mean, I listen to him, and I think that he's a high lyric tenor with an incredible low extension that he can play with. Uh, I think that's manufactured, but he's capable of manufacturing that sound,
Well,
and it's more than an imitation. He's able to do it,
he said that he didn't have anything when he was like in high school over a G,
Uh-huh.
and that everybody thought he was crazy for taking all this time to try to develop the top, which, according to him, he never had those high notes.
I didn't e- I
So
didn't either. You know,
what I didn't either. G was the highest note I had up
G
until I
A
was
flat,
18 or 19.
G A flat. That was it. Then it would fly open. You'd see my larynx flying into the second balcony. You know
Right.
what I mean? Because at that age we hadn't learned the balance.
Yes.
When I'm singing a high note, I feel like a guy playing handball. I'm bouncing that sucker right off the back wall before it comes out.
Mm-hmm.
If I
Mm-hmm.
don't, I'll go. "Ugh." I have a naturally high laryngeal position, and the last thing I
Really?
want to do, yes, it is naturally higher. Sinking heavily is foreign to me. So I have to think
Mm.
of the backspace and keeping the tube open. It really will not descend much at all.
Wow. Okay.
And I think sometimes people say, "Oh, that's a light tenor. He should sing light." Well, that's just going to make the larynx even higher and it's going to spread. Just sing,
Mm.
sing. I mean, when I'm going up for a B flat, B natural, high C, I'm thinking right out the back of my head just to try to keep in balance.
So, speaking of that concept, do you think in a way that you imagine the sound is going this way first and then around?
I
And I'm
think,
pointing backwards, folks, and then going forward.
I think that we're talking about the higher I go. I call it this way. Ah. You
Yeah.
understand what I mean?
Yeah. There it is.
Um,
Yeah.
and I think this is only a mental thing because people talk about singing forward or forming the vowel in the mouth. Well, that's all bone there. You're going to start moving those bones around. That's going to hurt. You know what I mean? That's going to hurt. This is not
Yeah.
where you form the vowel or singing forward. Trust me, the voice will come forward. But where's it coming forward from? From the back.
Exactly.
So I mean, if you open your mouth, and I never opened my mouth like like I was catching flies ever.
Mm.
Maybe to the top, but I know
Yeah.
that. You
Yeah.
know,
Neither did Gedda. Gedda barely
I was
opened
getting
his
that
mouth.
didn't do it, and Björling didn't do it. They called him bird
Exactly.
mouth.
Yeah.
And Schwarzkopf always spoke about keeping the mouth small.
Mm.
It's a lot easier to make a little bit more opening in the front if you need it than if you have too much to try to close that thing down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this has been my experience. And when I was living in Munich, after I left Salzburg, where I spent most of my time singing everything that Mozart ever wrote and Haydn ever wrote in the cathedral, my job in the little theater in Salzburg was to sing everything, to sing at the
Mm.
to sing solo parts, to jump in for people. So sometimes sing Italian roles in German, which I did not like.
I agree.
I mean, I speak fairly fluent German after all of these years, but uh, I did not like singing Italian music in German. It did not help me vocally at all. You know,
I get it.
it was
Well, to be
it.
honest with you, I didn't like singing German operas in German.
Well, strangely in circles, I was known for being a very good Bach singer. It was work.
Okay.
This was work. Uh, they go, "Oh, that sounds so wonderful." I say, "It's so easy." I go, "If you look at my score, you see I have every note and every phrase. I have it written down and mapped out exactly what I'm going to do technically, just to get through this thing."
Mm,
You know, and
yes.
but this is the illusion we're supposed to impart. We're supposed to make it look easy.
Hmm.
So at least that's the way I look at it. We're supposed to make it look easy.
Yeah,
Uh,
Ben Hepner told me a story that he was singing in Seattle, Andrea Chenier, I think it was.
uh-huh.
And the B flats and the aria Un dia lazzo spazio,
Yeah. Yes.
and the wife came up
That part. Yeah.
that and the
Yeah.
wife came up to him and said, "Ben, is are those high notes easy for you?" And he said, "Yeah, they're actually pretty easy." And she said, "Make it look more difficult
Well, actually,
for the
I
drama."
I fiddled around a few times with Chenier just in private, and actually those B flats are written really well. They're not tough.
They sure are. Oh,
Yeah.
I love those B
Yeah.
flats in that aria.
Also in the second duet, the Ora Soave and stuff, it is written vocally really intelligent.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Where you get into troubles is at the end of
Mm,
Chenier. That's where you get into troubles because that's just bang it out until the end. You better be fit and you better not have blown your voice in the judgment scene.
right.
That's where it's the last 5 minutes of Chenier. That's the tough haul.
Yeah.
The most of Chenier is dramatic recitative.
Yeah. That's true.
Most of it really is.
Yes. Yeah.
Uh,
Did you ever hear the Corelli version of Chenier?
yeah.
Oh my God. The
Oh,
the the way
I have
he,
all of this stuff. I have the
ah
recordings of every tenor who ever opened his mouth, and it's all right here in the computer. You know.
wow.
Let me ask you, just in terms of voice, who was your favorite tenor?
Mario Lanza.
Okay,
Yep.
okay.
I know that's controversial, but there was something about the color and the passion of that sound that transcended, right? Now, after
Absolutely.
him, my top guys are, of course, Pavarotti, I love,
Yeah.
Wunderlich, I love, and Caruso.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You want to know who my favorite voice is? Tenor
Mm,
voice?
yes. I was going to guess, but go ahead.
No, go ahead. Take a guess.
I was going to say either Bjorling or Gedda.
Purely Ageta, in terms of the voice, the
Hmm.
instrument, are number two and number three.
Okay.
Okay. And I'll tell you with Geda why in a minute. My favorite voice was Barioni.
Really?
Yes.
Because?
He had a tendency sometimes to spread and sing a little through the nose. But on the days where he was on, that was the most warm, almost baritonal sound that just flowed like lava.
Mm.
He had a habit of going up to the top, and as he attacked the note, he would spread it and then cover it. And I always felt that he was
Mm.
he was slamming the chords together for effect. And I think that
Hmm.
he got in trouble that way. It was a strange tick he would have starting at about A natural or B flat that he would go bow, you know.
Interesting.
Uh,
Wow.
and I'm just talking about the voice,
Got it.
the
I
instrument,
understand.
the instrument. Björling for his pristine delivery, the
Yes.
clarity of the sound, and his absolute refusal to use any tricks. That was an honest singer.
Yeah.
That was an honest singer. Because here it is. This is what I do,
There you
and
go. So George, my coach, told me that Bjorling did not do a single concert with him sober.
probably not. Uh,
And that's amazing at the level of expertise technically that he was,
You know,
that he had to depend on alcohol. Hey, I should
um,
talk. I take a shot myself before I sing. So there you go.
um,
But
I stopped drinking over 20 years ago.
good for you.
It's in this line of business, I've I've seen too many people go down the tubes with it.
Of course. Yeah,
I've seen and in the German theaters, I don't know what it's like right now, but this it it's no problem to get a beer right away.
sure.
You know what I mean? And I even noticed myself, said, I'm here to work. Are we partying too much? And
Mm,
I mean, I'm
that's a
happy.
different thing. Yes,
Yeah.
that's a different thing.
And or am I here to work? Uh, I saw a couple of guys literally drink themselves to death. And
Wow.
I'm sitting there going, this is, last year I had 2 beers during the performance. Now it's 3 beers during the performance.
Ooh,
And you know, do I want to keep going this way? I don't think so.
that's
I don't think
wise. Good for you.
and I also had some health problems that made me stop, completely. And the first couple of days,
John Kai's had to go through that same equation
really,
and
really,
really, yeah, pulled himself out of it.
uh,
And basically, he was in, I think, Houston apprentice program,
uh,
and they found out, and he confessed it, and they said either you stop cold turkey or your contract is over, and it worked. So,
yeah, yeah, of course. I mean, it's totally different in America. People don't drink in the theater.
mhm.
They don't. But in Bavaria, Austria, where I worked most of the time, beer it's considered a food product. You can go into the
Sure,
canteen and just buy your beer. It's right
right,
there.
right, yeah.
And there's refrigerators in the dressing rooms. They're full of beer, you know.
Love it.
And
Hey, I have one more tenor question for you.
all
Fabiano
right.
Labo.
Oh, he studied in Milano at the same time with one of my maestros, Ledesma. I think I sent you some recordings of him, who was a
Hmm.
student. They were both working with Granforte at the time. And of course, Ricardo Ledesma, he told me a lot of stories. I was just listening to a few of his things today because it was either the date of his death or his birthday or something. The stuff came up, and I was listening again, and I found it a beautiful voice. But I've always found his sound a touch throaty, a little ingolata. You know what I mean? I
Mm.
think a little bit of the graininess of that sound was indigenous to his voice, but there was just a little something that I felt it.
Uh, a little, a little Kermit there, huh?
Yeah, yeah, or Dudley Do Right, you know.
Gotcha.
Uh,
Here I am to save the
no,
day.
that's no, that's Mighty Mouse. Here I come to save.
Yeah, you're right.
That's I'm
You're
Dudley Do Right
right.
from the Mounties, and this is my horse Nell.
There it is. That's right. Yes.
Uh, the
Oh, Mighty Mouse. There you
the
go.
Germans call that a dumpling,
Okay.
knödel,
Hmm.
that you have a dumpling stuck in your throat. And I heard a little bit of that with Labo, but I think part of it was also indigenous to his voice.
I think you're right. Yeah.
You know, just a little of that graininess that you don't often get in an Italian tenor. Sometimes with
Hmm.
some of the rough-hewn baritones, you'll get that, but not.
Yeah.
That's unusual for a tenor, which I
Yeah.
think made him stand out. It's a little different color. Yeah, I mean, he was a magnificent singer.
Yes,
Of course, he was
absolutely.
a very small man. He was a very
Yeah.
small man,
Yeah.
and
I didn't
so
know that.
yes, he
Okay.
was very short. And I
Like
think
Joseph Schmidt's short?
well, no, not we're not talking approaching dwarfism.
Okay.
But I think he was 5'6", 5'7". He was a
Oh,
small,
okay. Okay.
you know, and so it really depended which soprano he sang with. You know what I mean? Um,
Yes.
because
And he didn't like to go outside of Italy to sing either,
no, no, he didn't.
because he
Uh,
said his allergies would bother him and he would lose
Don't
his
tell me
voice.
about that. When I lived for a period of time in Texas, and the cottonwood trees just destroyed me.
Ooh, I hate those.
You know, you
Hate
know,
those.
when those
Yes.
they just destroyed me. And I remember I'm sitting there going, "What is going on? What is this?" I thought my head had
Mm,
turned into a balloon. It's the cottonwood trees because coming from the
mm.
north, we didn't have any cottonwood trees, you know. So different places. I mean, traveling and singing, different climates, hotel rooms, different humidities and heats.
Yes,
Jet,
barometric pressures.
yeah, jet
Yeah.
lag. The life of an opera singer. We both know this. When you're traveling a lot, this is not a Mario Lanza movie.
No,
No, you know,
it
uh,
is not.
people would
Yeah,
say, "Oh, what did you think of Minneapolis?" I said the hall was nice and the hotel was comfortable. Yeah, but what did you think of Minneapolis? I said, I don't know.
I didn't see it.
I didn't see it. I didn't see it. You
That
know,
was pretty much my life too.
and they don't understand that. I said, "Oh, you've gotten to go everywhere." I said, "Yeah, I've seen lots of airports, lots of train stations, lots of hotels, and lots of theaters and concert halls. Lots of them." Yeah, but what else? I said, well, the hotel had a nice bar where I got a beer after the performance. Uh,
I
really,
relate. I was
you know,
not one of those guys. Well, first of all of the years I was on the road, I never drank a drop. I do that
that's
now, right? But
okay.
but then never drank a drop. And other people would go on their day off out skiing somewhere or something, and
Oh
I'm
no,
like, there's no way I can do that.
no. I played golf.
Uh huh.
Piotr Metsala, he does it too. I know a lot of singers, and some of them are good. They play golf.
See, I would have been afraid to do that because of the grass and
Depends on what kind.
my allergies. You
Well,
know.
the problem on the golf course though, it's not the grass. It's all the pesticides and stuff they put on it.
Oh, another equation.
Yeah.
Yeah,
When
yeah.
I was young, I would play golf. When I got to the green, I was usually smoking and I would throw the cigarette on the green. I'd pick it up and smoke it. But the pesticides were on it.
In
After I
there,
did that,
you were
three or
high.
four times, I was starting to get sick. And I said,
Mm.
this has got to be
And,
trouble. I can't do that.
and what about mold in dressing rooms? Did that bother you?
I didn't have that much.
Okay,
You know, the theaters in Europe are largely subsidized, so they have money for upkeep
good.
and stuff. Very, I can't think of one case in Western Europe where that was a problem. I did run into it in America in some of the old vaudeville houses that were restored.
Hmm.
There was mold behind the tapestries and things that was still there.
Yes.
And but particularly in the Northeast, in Connecticut, Massachusetts, in parts of New York, beautiful old houses, no wing space, no backstage space, but the house itself was gorgeous. Uh, I
Mm.
sang in one in Stamford, Connecticut, that had been completely redone, and there was one in Norwalk, Connecticut, fairly close to New York, that was in the process of being restored. And I remember the dressing room was under the stage, and they had the tiniest little sinks I ever saw in the corner. I said, "Is this a sink? What is this thing here, or is it a bubbler?"
Amazing.
It-
Very
we could
cool. What
we could sit here for hours and talk about stories and experiences
exactly?
that we've had over the years, going places and doing this and doing that. Sometimes it's interesting, sometimes it's a tragic
Yeah,
comedy, you know, right? You
absolutely.
know,
Well, the listeners love this kind of stuff. So when I have an
right.
opportunity, someone like you who's traveled
Um,
and
you know,
experienced it, I
that's why
pass it on.
I think that your podcast is so important for the young people. They can see people who have had careers on much different levels, doing much different things,
Hmm.
talking about some of the realities, but not putting it down. Say, listen, this is hard work and you've got to take care of yourself. Your body is yours.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You got to be careful. I mean, I traveled for years. I had that little bag full of every concoction and medication just in case. And
Yeah.
I don't think I'm the only one. I was talking to, I don't know if you know Angela Blasi. She sang
I know the
in
name, but I don't know her. Yeah.
a lovely lyric soprano. She's retired now, was in Munich for a long time. She did a bunch of Paminas at the Met. And I mean,
Wow.
she sang around. She goes, the
Hook
nice
me
thing.
up with her. Hook me up with her. We'll
Oh
have
yeah,
her
yeah.
on.
She's a lovely person. She's retired in Florida now. I sang with her in Munich for years, and she said the nicest thing about being retired is I took that little bag with all my medications and threw them in the trash. you know,
Exactly.
you know. So
But you know what? We're going to have to wrap it up there, my brother, because I see we're out of time. But
Okay.
I just want to say thank
Okay.
you. It went like that,
Listen,
right?
listen, I found it great to have a nice conversation with you. Like I said, I'm camera shy, but I'm just talking to you about some of the experience that you and I have had.
Yes.
And I think that this kind of thing with lots of people with different experiences can be such a valuable help and tool for the young singers who are starting today. You
Yes.
know,
Well, thank
okay.
you again for being on and sharing your
Well,
wisdom and
thank you
stories.
very much for having me. I feel really honored in the company that you have chosen to have this done.
My
Okay.
honor, my brother. And
Okay.
folks, for those of you who want to know more about my life story and my journey, please go to danielhendrick.com. There you'll find the Know You Know page. That's my book that kind of chronicles my life story, losing my voice, getting it back, singing all over the world, and kind of the inside story of the opera world. So thanks for being here on the Daniel Hendrick Experience. See you next Sunday, everybody. God bless. Have a good night. Take a breath.